Welcome to the Lights On podcast, featuring stories behind building and running successful hotel businesses. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Lights On podcast. I'm Kim Seo, CEO of Lights On and your host today. On this podcast, we share stories across hospitality about building and growing hotel businesses. Today, I have Dina Belon, President of Staypineapple Hotels. Dina, I'm going to formally introduce you in a moment, but I always like to point out some past episodes that listeners should check out. We are going to be talking a lot about boutique and independent brands today. So we have some past episodes such as Sean D, Chief Commercial Officer of Auriga Resorts and Hotels. They own over 30 properties across Hawaii and some of the Pacific Islands. We talk a lot about brand repositioning during the show, so check that out. The other one worth checking out is Bernard Tan, Chief Commercial Officer of Castle Resorts and Hotel. Again, another local Hawaii management companies, lots of boutique, lots of condo hotels, vacation rentals. Bernard talks a lot about how revenue management and distribution and how important they are in the world of independent hotel management. So definitely check those out. This episode is brought to you by Lights On Digital. We help hotels generate more revenue without the headaches of hiring a full commercial team. First, we help more travelers to find you, whether they are searching on ChatGPT, Google, or social media. Then we make sure that they book your property, not your competitor down the street, with the most optimal pricing, whether the booking is coming from direct, OTA, or group businesses. We recently helped a Florida 36-room resort make more than $400,000 of revenue in just 6 weeks working with us. If you want to learn more about how we did that and our approach and our framework, I share a lot of those content on my personal LinkedIn. So follow me there and send me a direct message, and I'm happy to chat with you. So officially welcoming you, Dina, President of Staypineapple Hotels. Dina spent nearly 3 decades in hospitality real estate, leading renovations, property improvement programs, interior design for brands like Marriott and Wyndham before joining the force of independent hotels at Staypineapple in 2016 as the head of real estate. And from that seat, Dina rise up to be the president in 2023. So today she's going to be running the boutique brand based in Pacific Northwest in Washington with a portfolio of 9 hotels. And obviously we're going to talk a lot about how you plan to expand the brand well beyond that. So Dina, welcome to the show.
Oh, Ken, thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here and can't wait to dig in to the conversation.
Yes, and if you want to hear more about Dina aside from the podcast today, definitely I want to just make sure that everyone, especially independent hoteliers, stay tuned for the Independent Hotel Show in Miami happening in September. Dina is going to be hanging out there, and as well as talk a lot about how to win as a independent and boutique hotel. So also one of the more intimate environment for all the boutique operators and owners to hang, right? We have a lot of conferences out there for hospitality in general, but I usually like kind of the smaller setting where you get to have more meaningful connections, and especially if you are running a boutique independent, I think this show is really made and tailored for you. So definitely check that out, and it's happening in Miami in September.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Ken, it's really about community. And I think the challenge with being an independent or boutique hotel that's unrelated to one of the chains is you feel alone sometimes. And it can be really hard not to have a mothership. And so think of the community as the mothership of help and support and guidance and best practices and innovation and creativity and all of those things. I think I shout from the rooftops to, all of my hospitality nerds out there and innovators and rule breakers and creative people that live in the space of independent boutique hotels. Come, let's share, let's gain knowledge from each other and inspire each other and have a glass of wine.
Exactly. I love your mindset, Dina, and it's one of the reasons that I started this podcast because I definitely know that unlike the big boys, the big box, right? They have all these resources and all the franchisees, the owners, they can group together. To your point, independent operators sometimes can feel really lonely when you are the only uh properties in town with no flags flying, on top of your roof, you want to make sure to find out the successful operators, Stay Pineapple being one of them, and understand how to really streamline and make the best operationally, but also providing that unforgettable guest experience, which I know Stay Pineapple really excellent to deliver those kind of experience. So but before we dive into Stay Pineapple, I want to focus on you for a moment. I always like to learn about how everyone get into this industry in the first place. You started with that. You spent some time on the dark force in the big brand, and later on joined forces with the independent in boutique side of things with Stay Pineapple. So, how did you start, and how did you cross path with Stay Pineapple that leads to where you are today?
Yeah, it's a circuitous and funny story. I'll make it as short as possible. I started my career in design. I graduated from school in that, and pretty quickly realized that I wasn't passionate enough about it to really fight for it. So I started in the hotel side of the business and real estate development, and building resorts and hotels in the Orlando market. Um, so I joined Marriott and went into construction management, which I liked better. It was more black or white, yes or no. It was right or wrong. It was less opinion oriented. And I meandered my way around in kind of the real estate world or the built environment. I'm landing for a while in sustainability, which is a personal passion of mine. And that kind of brought me out to the West Coast. I was working in downtown Seattle for a consulting firm that was doing really cutting edge or bleeding edge sustainability consulting. Think Living Building Challenge, zero, net zero buildings, that kind of stuff. And I looked out my window and I saw a 3-story pineapple painted on the side of a building. And I went, who are those people and why is there a pineapple there? It happened to be a building that Michelle Barnett, who's our founder, owned, and the pineapple is our logo. And so I checked them out and I Googled them and was like, I got to check these people out. And they happened to be hiring for a director of real estate assets. And I saw it as a sign, literally saw it as a sign. And 3 days after my interview, I was hired. And 2 weeks later, I started and I never looked back. I really, truly found home at Stay Pineapple. And in the boutique space, right? I came from the brands and when I started at the company, I thought, oh, I'm gonna teach these people how to standardize and write SOPs and scale this idea. The idea is great, but we need to figure out how to scale it, right? And the way to scale it is use the overlay Marriott's model on top of it. It took me about 2 years to really understand that the brand's business model is the opposite of independent boutique hotels. And what I mean by that is brands have done a very good job and they're absolutely exceptional at creating standards and having consistency and providing a very consistent guest experience at each of their brands that they've identified. Um, we used to we used to talk about the differentiations between each of the brands, and they were very thin little identifiers that, this one is this market segment, this one is this market segment. When I came over to the boutique side, I couldn't understand in the beginning that the entire premise is we don't have SOPs because there's an ultimate SOP, do the next right thing.
Hmm.
What? I was like, what? What? I don't I don't get it. And it really, to internalize that idea and not let it just be a slogan, you have to step back and relinquish the control and really trust your people.
Mm.
So first you have to hire right, but then you have to truly let people be responsible and empower them to do their job. And that is the core difference between the brands. Neither's right or wrong, by the way, but the core difference between the two. The brands say, this is how you do it. I'm going to put you in a navy jacket and put a name tag on you, and I'm going to tell you how to answer the phone. And then I'm going to judge you against how I told you how to do it. Those are going to be your KPIs. In an independent boutique space, we're going to say, this is the feeling we want. This is the ultimate kind of ethos of the brand. But we want you to develop your own unique way of doing all the things you do every day. And that unique nature is actually going to create the culture of each hotel uniquely. And that's what the guests love. Not the sameness, but the difference. Instead of vanilla, we're hot pink, right? Like it's literally the opposite. Instead of consistency, we're about unique character. Does that make sense?
It's fascinating, and I would love to dive a level deeper into the execution of it, because my mind is still between. The way I see it is such a spectrum of scaling and standardization on one end of the spectrum, on the other side being the go wild, trust the people, let them do their thing. To be is almost on both sides of the spectrum. And apparently Stay Pineapple is finding the way to make it work. And just for context of the listeners here, the 9 properties that I'm aware of, there might be more in the pipeline, across the country. They are all independent, they're all boutique, they all have their own name, very different design. Actually, Dina, I would love to know, like, when a guest goes to any of these properties for the first time, do they even know the brand Stay Pineapple?
They may not. They might, right? They may have found it through a Google search. I'm going to Seattle and I'm looking for a boutique hotel in Seattle near the Space Needle. And they come across the Maxwell Hotel and they book the Maxwell Hotel. They'll if they book direct, they'll come to a website that's clearly Stay Pineapple and very branded to us. So I think our digital footprint is a lot heavier with our brand than our physical footprint.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So with that layer, again, kind of back to scaling, because we talk a lot about this concept with an independent operator when the owner or the GM owns only one or maybe 2 or 3 hotels. Now we are talking about 9, and obviously you guys have to pile up, keep expanding that portfolio. So how does the two different world merge and create kind of that Venn diagram of success?
Yeah, it is. You nailed it. It is really a Venn diagram because it's a constant balance between elevating the unique character of each hotel and making sure that we don't stifle that, but at the same time having a through line at every hotel where you do feel in a mild way the Stay Pineapple brand and its unique quirky character. So the bed and the bedding, the naked experience, which we're famous for, is always consistent. You're always going to have the naked experience at every hotel. Our water bottles are at every hotel. The same coffee program in the in-room program is the same across the portfolio. So you'll have touches that will remind you that you're in a Stay Pineapple hotel, but it's enveloped in this unique localized experience at each property. And they're also, I think one of the biggest challenges in our space is guest expectation around them being equal in their product, whether it's upscale or upper upscale product. And we have both. We kind of land in upscale and upper upscale. Like if you stay at the University Inn in Seattle, it's an old 1950s inn that it leans into that kind of mod feel and very mid-century aesthetic. And it's very fun, and it is a neighborhood. We literally, the tagline for the hotel, we created taglines for each hotel to try to give a hint to the consumer what that hotel's character is going to be like. So that hotel, for example, is a neighborhood hotel. It is very down to earth and low key, and it's right in the University of Washington. It's adjacent to the campus. It's right in the U District, and it's young and it's fun and it's vibrant. But then you go to San Francisco, for example, and that hotel is very elegant. I say that there's more Carrara marble in that hotel than there is in Italy, and sometimes I'm kidding about it. But it is an absolute. It was built in the early 1900s, 1910, and it is absolutely a grand dame of a building. And when we did a complete top to bottom renovation of that hotel when we bought it, and we really tried to lean into that character, right? That just really elegant hotel. And its tagline is an elegant hotel. So each of them are very different from each other. And that can be a challenge sometimes because guests might have gone to San Francisco and then they go stay at University Inn and they're expecting that level of elegance. And it's much more casual. So I think that's some of the things that we as a brand work really hard on is advocating for the unique character of the independent hotel and educating guests around it. That, really understanding the expectation of what you're going to stay in is not necessarily going to be exactly like the last one you stayed in. Whether it's Stay Pineapple or Lark or any of the other, kind of small brand spaces, they all have their own. They're all their own special snowflake.
Yeah,
right.
I love that. Like Stay Pineapple has a very intentional choice to find what should be standardized. Almost remind me. So another episode not coming out yet. It's gonna be some point in the future. Is a Asi Kashani. She was a former GM for the Soho House in LA. So Soho House have a very similar concept where I find they're probably leading more with their core brand. So different location of Soho House, you will see more similarity about the brand itself, but they're trying to localize from that versus I think Stay Pineapple is approaching the same problem on the other side of spectrum. We love to use spectrum a lot on this call. You start with what's unique about the property at first, and from there you inject the brand standardization and some of those small moments, which I find you probably all leading to the same outcome to deliver that great guest experience. But it just shows that it can be very different from one brand to the other versus, if we contrast that with the big brand, I think they are coming in with a much heavier on this is the level of standardization that we want, which works for their business. But I think something you are kind of hinting to early on is that to be successful running a boutique or independent hotel, we can't follow exactly how the big brand does it because we are never gonna win. Like they have that massive economy of scale, so we have to really find what's unique and different, and why would a guest choose you over another standard and consistent branded hotel, which is pretty fascinating to see how you over time build that Venn diagram of a Stay Pineapple.
Yeah, I like to say with my team sometimes, we need to not play on the field with the big brands. We need to create a new sport, right? We need a different field and a completely different sport.
You're the pickleball of hotel.
Exactly. We're the pickleball of hotels. Exactly. Hopefully we become as popular as pickleball.
Okay, you guys are making that happen. So
It's great.
yeah. Well, so let's talk about that model. So, because right now, and you correct me if I'm wrong. So the 9 hotels that you Stay Pineapple has right now, they are owned and operated in-house by the brand itself. And I know that over time, you guys are working on um kind of turning the model into more like a brand or third-party management for other independent hotels that you don't own, right? So I think that's the model that you guys going with right now. So that also pushes the model to the next level. Now, how can you keep that level of consistency for service level and guest experience when you don't necessarily have the full control of the operation?
Yeah, it's a great question. And just to clarify, we currently own 6 of the hotels and we manage 3.
Mm.
So we do have both in the portfolio. And it's interesting because literally from the home office standpoint, we manage the two, whether it's owned or operated, the same exact way. Because we have shared services, and it's part of the value that we bring to independent owners, is really creating some scale. We're using a little bit of the brand's model at a much smaller scale. But even like a one-off hotel could benefit from centralized HR, centralized accounting, centralized sales, centralized revenue management, centralized marketing, centralized distribution. Everything except guest service is centralized at our home office. So there's no salespeople at the hotels. There's no accountant at the hotels. There's none of the back office is sitting at the hotels. We want the hotel teams, including the general manager, 100% focused on team member and guest experience. That's all they're responsible for doing. And that's part of how we create the culture we do, is not to distract them from, you know, like we shouldn't have our GMs out there doing revenue management. It's a completely different mindset. It's a totally different type of person. So because of our scale, we're able to have somebody really that is 100% focused and is the type of person that loves revenue management. I don't have somebody that's sort of good at operations and sort of good at revenue management, right?
Yeah.
I can have very technical experts in each of those areas. And that's really where I think our growth strategy, not to be too corny about it, but it comes from a desire to want to help independents compete
Yeah.
and make sure that in this extreme time of extreme change and disruption in our industry, that the independent space of hospitality doesn't get lost to the big brands and the OTAs. Again, they're not, OTAs are frenemies, and then the big brands are our competition, but they're different, right? It's apples and pineapples. Um, so we really, really, our heart is in saving this sector in the United States. The independent space is so much smaller in the United States than it
compared to
is in
Europe.
Europe than in other parts of the world, right? And it keeps getting eroded. The big brands keep buying all the good small brands out there, like Graduate and, any number of other ones, Bunkhouse, and, like a gazillion different little brands have been gobbled up. That it, I it just breaks my heart. So I want to help protect and kind of nurture the independent space. And we can do that through management. We can do that through, any number of ways of helping other independents, including being on podcasts and helping with the knowledge base we have, going to conferences and sharing best practices, doing whatever it is that we can in the industry to try to help our brethren stay independent and keep their unique voice loud and proud.
I'm not sure if there's any Game of Thrones fans out there who are listening. It just totally remind me of the free folks beyond the wall, like everyone just band together and trying to do that versus being owned by a kingdom, and it just came to mind weirdly. And one thing I did want to touch on, something that we've seen very consistently day to day in our life at Lyson as well, is when you mention especially the smaller properties, when very oftentimes the GM or the owner are wearing multiple hats, doing completely different things, right? It's very not uncommon to see the owner being the revenue manager, the marketer, the operation head, and all of that. And very rarely a person will have this like perfect skill set for all of these very different things. So finding ways to help a hotel scale and finding the right dedication, right? Something that we did a lot. Obviously for Stay Pineapple as well. So that really gets you in a competition landscape with some of the soft brand movement for the big brands, right? So now I'm thinking about from a independent operator perspective. They're constantly getting pitched by different brands. They don't want to fly a flag. Now they have all these dozens of soft brands they get to choose to retain some level of the independence and the uniqueness of the brand. And what I'm hearing from the Stay Pineapple's model is getting very similar to that model. So now let's say if we kind of have like a sales pitch moment for Stay Pineapple coming in, why would an independent operator choose Pineapple and its model over a soft brand when they have all the other support they could be getting?
Yeah, I think it really becomes two factors: philosophy. So an owner that's making that decision is they're either looking to relinquish some of the responsibility and hand it over to somebody else so that it just takes it off their plate. And the scale of the brands is valuable, and in many cases that's a good decision to make. It's a smart way to go. I think in some cases you don't need the distribution that a big brand brings you. You might either be in a really unique location, you might be in a market that you're going to get enough business. How much value is the brand really going to bring you top line? And then more importantly, how much you're going to have to pay for it. So
Right, exactly.
it's not cheap to get that big brand, right? So what is the flow through really going to look like in NOI? That's the second piece. Really understanding in great detail that agreement you're going to sign before you sign it. Because there's a lot of hidden costs. The brand might say it's only a 12% fee, but plus, right? By the time you're done, you're at 20% of your revenue is going to the brand. Uh, so I think that's one of the big differentiators. I think one of the other ones is you hear the word used a lot, native AI or native this or native that. We're a native boutique company. We were born, created, and bred as a boutique hotel company. It's not an add-on. It's not an extra. It's not an afterthought. It's not a little tiny part of our business model. It is everything that we do. We will never operate a 400 room hotel that has a ton of convention space. It's not our business. It's not what we do. Everything will be under 200 rooms. We generally don't do a lot of meeting and convention space. It's just not the sector we're in. We love food and beverage and amenity in a hotel, but it's really not the area. We're a heavily transient. So most of our business mix is about 75% transient and only about 25% group or NBT that's coming through contracts. So like that, if that is the hotel that you have and you don't want to pay high fees, because we're a lot more reasonable, we have figured out how to run we have a 56 room hotel. So we run anything from, in the low 50s to 100, and our largest hotel is 152 rooms. So we run anything in that kind of range that way more effectively than a brand could ever do. Because with that scale comes all that overhead.
Yeah, the bells and whistles that you don't necessarily need.
Right. Yeah. Do you really need all of that? Do you need a big national group sales team to sell your hotel? Do you want a lot of group in your hotel? The other thing is you're going to be a little teeny tiny hotel in a giant company. And so are you going to get the attention? Right? All of our little hotels get all kinds of individual attention. Like we get on a call twice a month with our owners at every single hotel and go, okay, let's focus on backward looking. How does that look? How did we do last month? What are we doing forward looking? What is next? I mean, we sit and go over last week's STR reports and we look at what does the forecast look like for the next 3 days? And, we're down in the nitty gritty at every single hotel every day. We don't run them as a portfolio. We run each hotel as a unique operation and give it the attention that it needs, which you're not going to get in a brand. Yeah. Again, neither's right or wrong. It really is about what's important to the owner.
What's the right fit for the particular hotel? Yeah, which because it feels like you learn to understand your sweet spot for Staypineapple as a brand, and I love that you have a very defined criteria on what kind of properties works for your model and what doesn't. And when you're now getting to a very specific, unique, and with that nuance, and I'm sure we're going to talk about AI at some point of our conversation. This is one thing about AI nowadays when it comes to boutique and independence that really gives you advantage to be very nuanced and particular for certain things that you do that a big brand couldn't, because just with their massive scale of standardization that we just talked about, it just it's meant to be. They just couldn't create the level of nuances that AI nowadays rewards a lot, right? We talk a lot about in Hawaii, right? If we want to optimize for a certain guest profile, a family of 3 with a dog coming in, staying for the week, with no parking fees or amenity fees, when you have that level of nuance, boutique independence in kind of this criteria get to be very much matching what people are looking for versus a Marriott or the Hilton, just with what constraint they have with their standardized website or content, they can never get to that level of nuance. So I think
I love how you say that. Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's I talk about it in different words, but the same exact concept, which is we have such a deep breadth of information about our hotels.
Yeah.
And we have such a massive opportunity as independents and small scale brands to create what's the right word I'm looking for? Differentiation, right? And prioritizing our hotels over the big brands and what the OTAs can say about us.
Yep.
Because honestly, the OTAs at their scale will never be able to get the deep knowledge that an AI is looking for
Yeah.
when you've got somebody asking very specific questions. I want a unique boutique hotel that's got a quirky atmosphere near the Loop in Chicago and, has a restaurant.
Yep.
Like, that's what people are asking. And when people start asking that question, not just, I want the cheapest room in the Loop, I want the cheapest room in the Loop, we're all commodity and we're competing against the big brands.
Yeah.
But that first question digs right to our hotel. And if we have the right information publicly available on your website, in your social media, out on Reddit, on your Wikipedia page, all of the places, it's not one, like you got to cover them all, because if you have inconsistency, the LLM will not like that. So the answers have to be right and they have to be consistent. And the deeper you go, the better, the more often you're going to get returned in a response. And
Yep.
so we have the opportunity to really have the advantage in this space. And it's the first time in decades that independents have been in this place. And I so want to help them
Yeah.
take advantage of it and not get lost, because Marriott and Hilton and IHG and Hyatt and Choice and Booking.com and Expedia are all in a pilot program right now today with Google to distribute your hotel through their systems.
Yep.
And take your guests and take your markup and take a markup. So we really now is the time to get in front of this and make sure that we don't get lost again, like when OTAs were created.
Yeah, and it is the window of opportunity, right, to actually act right now before just like any other technology. When the big boys coming in and figure this out, that window will just get closed, and we're gonna be getting into the same OTA conversation 10 years ago, right? But so I'm gonna pivot a little bit because otherwise I'm trying to keep myself from spending just another hour talking about the whole AI search, because that has been my passion nowadays. But kind of back to adjacent topic on technology stack, because I think this is the other big part where we've seen independent and boutique struggling, because I getting into a very fragmented ecosystem of technology in hospitality. I love to understand how Stay Pineapple does it across the portfolio, and obviously how that leads to getting more direct booking, which a lot of the boutique independents are dying for having more. So having some level of standardized tech stack, because from what I understand, Stay Pineapple spent quite a few years to trying to get to a point of standardization, which is not easy. People ever dabble into the messy world of PMS, CRS, channel manager, and each components have 7 different vendors. So how did you kind of get to a point of finding a setup that works for the portfolio, and how much customization that you do for different independents and boutique? Because this is the point where the boutique independents are requiring a lot more customization to retain that uniqueness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great point. And it is the one place that we are really iron fisted about standardization, because technology is the backbone that allows us to create the unique nature of every hotel. We invested a ton of money when we still owned all the assets in 2024 in changing out almost our entire tech stack. We left our accounting system in place, and we left our revenue management tool in place that we were happy with. Otherwise, we changed all of our technology to modern, cloud-based partners that had future focus on AI and the ability to automate things that were tasks and what I call drudgery, all of the drudgery that happens, right? All of the things out there that none of us like to do. Let's get rid of all of it. Let's like if you don't, that's what I say all the time. Let's automate everything we don't like.
Yep.
That's the simplest way to look at it, right?
Yes.
That will make us 10 times more efficient and everybody a lot happier. So it's a win-win. And that's really, we invested a ton of money to build the backbone so we would be able to do what we're doing. Including this year a new overlayment tool that's integrated into Muse, which is our PMS, called Abra. And it really is a centralized guest profile that takes in data from all of our sources, whether it's reviews, external reviews, comes in through Review Pro, comes in from our PMS, comes in from our from Salesforce, from our CMS, any of the tools in which we have information, including even our like login information to get into the Wi-Fi, right? Like literally everything gets pulled in here and puts pertinent, this is super critical, pertinent, not every piece of information we have, but pertinent guest data in front of the right person at the right time.
Yep. The golden guest profile.
Right. And gamifies it. So it makes so we've been doing this for 15 years. Started out as, and we call it Surprise and Delight. That's just our little, like, we name everything, by the way. And most everything is something pineapple. This particular thing is just called Surprise and Delight. But the gist of it is, back in the original day, we would listen to something guests say. They could just be hanging out in the lobby. They might be sitting at the bar. They might be at the front desk. Not eavesdrop, listen, don't be rude. But here are things that we might be able to surprise and delight the guest about. An easy, obvious one is it's a couple's anniversary, but more interesting, you're going on a job interview and we hear about that, right? Well, we put up banners in your room and balloons and say, I hope the interview went great and you're going to win. And, they could do fun, cool things that just surprise people and make them smile and make them happy. So it went from listening to, okay, we've got really solid technology that will allow us to input information and make sure that when an employee hears something, they enter it so that we start capturing it. We started to build a database of that information over time. And then that database turned into something that our own internal, we had to build an AI because nobody had done it yet. We had to build one that would take that information and filter out all the unnecessary stuff and put a report in front of the team members every morning that says, here are your arrivals coming in, and here's the interesting information we know about them.
Wow.
Right? So that was the first version. We've evolved beyond that now. That was a couple years ago. Now we've got an electronic version of it. Everybody's got a little Google device in their hand at our hotels, housekeepers, everybody's got them. Maintenance team has them, and they can look at any information they want in Abra at any time. Same information's there, only better. So it's been an evolution from listening to a technology solution, but the hard part that whole time was to get the team engaged in putting the information in the system, because that's not very fun, right?
No, not at all.
So Abra has really cracked that nut and gamified that process and made it a competition and created all of this opportunity for team members to get applause and kudos and win things and get pineapple chunks, which is in our world, that's a pineapple chunk is worth $7 on your paycheck, right? So, and it's actually a physical little coin you get, and, so it's like all kinds of different ways we've learned how to gamify the process to encourage everybody to take the time to go enter information that's not the funnest thing to do. So, just really cool evolution in technology, but you have to have the culture first.
Yeah.
You can't add technology and suddenly get people surprising and delighting your guests. You have to have the culture that creates people that want to be creative and go put balloons and streamers and a sign in somebody's room, or build um, a ballet room design because you've got a guest that's coming in, and for the last 10 years, the daughter, granddaughter, and mother have seen the ballet every year at the same time. They come every year, and they did a whole themed room around it for this, mother, daughter, grandmother at one of our hotels. Any number of those things.
Yeah.
It takes human beings to be creative.
Yeah.
And you have to have that first. So don't put the technology in front of the culture.
It should be behind the scenes to really put humans to the spotlight. And I think the other part I want to articulate is we talk a lot about that in past episodes, is the staff experience too, which kind of related to culture. Many hoteliers, we all know guest experience is always at the top and foremost. Many times the staff experience is getting overlooked frequently, and our argument has always been that you have to treat the staff basically how you would treat a guest, and then your staff is really gonna be amplifying kind of that level of hospitality to the guest. And I love the gamification and the cultural piece. It's a very expensive pineapple chunk. It's $7 like a chunk. It's like, okay, very expensive, but I think just having those quirky moments, even internally, really help foster what the brand is meant to be, right? Before I kind of came into the hospitality space, I always I never learned about the tangible output of a brand. It all just feels so not concrete to me. And I think just through talking with many hospitality leaders, like you, it's just like getting to me like it's not necessarily a one thing. It's just like that small moments here and there, not just for the guests but also for the staff, to really fostering what Stay Pineapple as a brand means to everyone. Staff, internal, external, to the guests, and all of that, to actually mesh it together. And once you have that, now putting the technology underneath to get the negative part of anything about the job out of the way. So I think I'm just seeing lots of what you guys are doing right from all the other people that I interview with. I just feel like you guys are matching up the best of hospitality into this one brand, which I very much admire.
Thank you. Yeah, and you're 100% right. The team member's experience is equally as important as the guest experience. And I reemphasize again, hiring the right people from the beginning. We generally struggle hiring people that have been in the brands for a long period of time, because they're very used to being given rules and told how to do things. And they come to work for us and we go, hey, go be yourself. And they're like, what? Right? It doesn't compute. And some people just don't feel comfortable with it too. It's really a risk. I think people underestimate the risk on yourself of being yourself at work and potentially getting rejected, right? I guess not liking whatever it is you're doing. it feels a lot more personal when it was you putting it out there.
Mm.
And so people that really have the confidence to be themselves and believe in themselves and not be afraid of that is not always easy to find.
Mm.
And it doesn't mean that you have to be loud or you have to be overly extroverted. We have introverted team members that work in the front of house in our hotels. And that's part of what I mean by be yourself is they find their own quiet way to surprise and delight and to be engaging with guests. You don't always have to be as hot pink and bubbly as I am, right? That's not the requirement at all. You just have to be confident enough to be yourself.
I see. Which is gonna lead to my last question for you, Dina. Actually, I have to switch up to that question because I think this is a very great topic when it comes to employee and staff experience. So, hospitality is known to be an industry with lots of turnover. People come and go, and I think many hoteliers are constantly dealing with hiring and rehiring, onboarding and offboarding. So, what uh, if you have to pick one thing that any hoteliers out there can implement next week or tomorrow to really start enriching that staff experience to reduce turnover, to start building the culture, the team who cares, what would you recommend?
Just one. I think I would recommend empowerment. And it's such an overused word, and I hate to use it, but it's the right word. It really is trust your people and get the hell out of the way.
Mm.
It literally stop. If somebody does something that's not perfect, that's okay. Train with it. Like guide, be on the floor, show, be an example. You don't need to tell people what to do if you're out there shoulder to shoulder with them all the time and they see what you do. That's the best teaching tool we think is really um, being an example, right? But I say that you can't just start empowering people if that's not your culture. So you really have to start with hiring people for emotional intelligence and critical thinking and authenticity. And if you have that already or if you don't, then you start hiring for that. You can build a culture that you can empower your people.
Mm. Love that. Thanks, Dina, for having that. We've been talking to Dina Belon, President at Staypineapple Hotels. Dina, where can people learn more about you?
Oh yeah, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. Please message me there, follow me. You can also email me at dbelon@staypineapple.com. I am very publicly available, and hopefully I'll see you at a conference.
Yes.
So Independent Hotel Show coming up in Miami in September. Don't miss it.
All right. Everyone just go find Dina and just talk shop. Very easy to recognize. I think Dina has this style of a youth coming in with very bright clothing, just like I do. This is probably gonna be where I'm gonna be showing up in Miami next month. So talk to us. Let's talk shop. Let's have fun. Thanks a lot, Dina, again for joining me today.
Thanks, Ken.
Right. Bye, y'all.
Thanks for listening to the Lights On podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.